Well, good morning, everyone, and just welcome to our information session for our Ride to Freedom expedition that we'll be doing next. Next June. It's just brilliant to have had so much interest when we come up with these ideas. We're never too sure if it's just going to be like me and Steph and Ronnie. We're never sure if anyone's going to be interested. So absolutely brilliant to have so much interest. First of all, just wanted to do a thank you to Alex, who's on the call, because she's lent us her Zoom account, which is brilliant for the LSMA. Thank you so much, Alex. A bit of housekeeping. So it's being recorded. You should have got a notice. So everybody should be muted, and then at the end when we do the Q&A you can just take yourself off mute. If you can leave your cameras on, if you can. We understand with bandwidth and stuff, if you're struggling, that just helps. Presenting to a blank screen is so awkward, as I'm sure lots of you know. And yeah, so just really a bit of a background into me and into the Forces Wives Challenge, because looking at the faces and the names, there's a real mix of people that I know from the very beginning and people who've maybe only just joined Forces Wives Challenge for this specific challenge, which really kind of sparked your interest in this. But I'm Heather Sharp. I'm the founder of FWC, and I really came up with FWC because I did 10 years in the regular army, and then I married somebody in the army, had a couple of kids, and really as a family we couldn't keep juggling, so I made the really difficult decision to leave. And when I was in the military, I had so many incredible opportunities to go on adventures, deploy operations, do kind of lots of travel and things. And when I saw life on the other side of the fence as a military wife, my eyes were really opened to just how hard it is for those that the ones holding the fort at home, and especially in those early days with young children, I really struggled with isolation, with loneliness, and I just thought, I remember thinking, like sitting at home and thinking, like, does the military aware of just how hard it is for people on the other side, and on the other side of the fence, if you like? So I thought, I really want to give something back, and I was like, what can I do? And so I set my heart on organising an expedition for the military wives, and I wanted to do something massive. I wanted to do something that I would have had the opportunity of doing in the military. So I basically organised a climb up the world's highest volcano in Chile, so just under 7,000 meters, and we took a team of 12 military wives and we summited it on International Women's Day 2019, and that's all that Forces Wives Challenge was ever supposed to be, was one event. But 4 years later, we're now over 1,000 members. We've done, I think it's 29 challenges and raised £60,000 for over £60,000 for charity. So an absolutely, it's just grown and grown. I'm absolutely thrilled to be launching another overseas expedition now. So how did I meet Steph? So Steph's the one who's on the end of all of the emails. It always makes me laugh because she always sends this, we're volunteers, it'll take 48 hours to get back to you. And she's always straight back within the hour. She's the most organized person ever. But so it was last summer that an email dropped into the in tray saying, hi, I'm Steph. I'm disabled. I'm not able to climb mountains, but I would love to get involved with Forces Wives Challenge. I love what you're about. I'm pretty ninja with admin, so how can I help out? And I was like, oh my God, this was amazing. Like somebody who has all the skill sets that I'm not good at. And so we sort of hit it off straight away. And then Steph came to Pen y Fan last year, and I said, well, why don't you come along, meet the community, help out at the base of the mountain with all the admin. So I was just kind of expecting Steph to just kind of rock up and help out and chat to everyone. How wrong I was. Steph and John, her husband, who you'll get to meet, who's amazing, turn up, laminated, everything's laminated signs, everything's in order, and she just kind of whipped us into shape. Like me and Kate, the director, we were like, and Steph was like, do this, do that, and I was like, amazing. So she's kind of been an absolutely integral part of FWC, and so's John, her husband, who's like kind of he puts these ideas into Steph's mind, I think, subtly, and says, well, why don't you do this? And actually John's part of the reason we're doing this challenge. So that's how I met Steph, and she'll sort of talk more about her story later. You'll also meet Ronnie, who I've known since we did NCT together, actually, 12 years ago or something. And Ronnie's got a military background as well. She's spent a lot of time at King's Troop, and she's really kindly agreed to be the expedition leader on this, which is great, a real sort of step forward, that I'm not doing the expedition leader, which is really good. And also you'll meet Gemma. So Gemma, who was one of the hot ladies who did the Heroes of Telemark expedition, and she's sat where you are now, listening to the presentation, knowing she's just going to talk through her experience of the application process and what she got from the challenge. So before I hand over to the team, then I just wanted to, if you could share a slide, Steph, I just wanted to talk really about the Forces Wives Challenge pledge that we kind of read out before we go on these major challenges, because I think it's important to really set the groundwork. And that's the first one is, if something's important enough to me, I will find a way. I think I could write a book on the stories that people tell me before they get to an FWC event around the huge hurdles they overcome with childcare, with work, with their partner getting deployed last minute, them having to find someone to look after the dog, the grandparents coming down from Scotland, or, you know, the things that people go to actually make it to the start line of these challenges is massive. And I think if you really want to be here, you'll find a way to get here. So that's that's really our first point. The next one is really about kindness. It's really important to us that we, as a community of women, we go through a lot of we do go through a lot of challenging times, a lot of hardship, and especially when you put people in quite extreme situations and circumstances, they maybe react in ways that you might not expect. And it's about, trying to put yourselves in their shoes and not knowing what is going on in their life at that time. So so the next one is really around kindness. The third one is about teamwork, about community, and it's working together to really achieve our aim. The fourth one is about embracing the type 2 fun, that type of fun which at the time is probably awful. You're probably cold, you're wet, you're tired, you're homesick, you're hungry. But it's when you get to the pub later, you're sitting in front of the fire and you're saying, that was one of the best experiences, and you're laughing over a drink. And there's lots of type 2 fun in FWC. And then the final one is really, this is your opportunity. How many times have you been at home and your partner's packed their bag and they've gone off to wild and wonderful places? And this is your opportunity to really seize it and completely own it and take it for everything. So then sort of track that across into values of determination, kindness, community, fun and adventure. And that's something that is really important to us as the foundation of what Forces Wives Challenge is about. So yeah, just finally, I just wanted to say our vision for Forces Wives Challenge is that the leaping lady that you see on our logo is obviously about our community, but it's actually about something much bigger than that. It's about inspiring a global community of women to believe that, together we really can achieve anything. And it's, if you think about your daughters, your granddaughters, your godchildren, your friends of friends, who will maybe look at you and think, do you know what, if she can do it, I can do it. So in the same way that the Heroes of the Telemark ladies and this community has inspired Steph to come up with this challenge, actually we've got sort of a broader message of if we can do it, women all over the world can do whatever they're wanting to set out to do. So on a rather grandiose note, I'm going to hand over to Steph. I'm actually in a hotel at the minute, so I'm probably turn off camera because I'm in the reception and people might come in and out, but I'll see you at the end for the questions. So thanks so much. Over to you, Steph.
Thanks, Heather. Yeah, so firstly, good morning to everyone, and thank you for coming along today. We have been really, really excited to see the amount of interest in this challenge. I will shortly get on to telling you some more information about the challenge itself. But before that, I'd like to introduce myself and give a little background of how this challenge came about. So as Heather said earlier, most of you will probably know me through the end of an email, talking to you about membership, challenges, organisation, and kind of everything in between. And as Heather said earlier, last sort of spring, summer last year, I stumbled across FWC really, and just felt this real pull towards it. I just really, really loved what FWC was doing for military wives and partners, and I knew that I just really wanted to be part of it in whatever way I could. So I contacted Heather and explained my situation and asked if there was any way of me being involved. Just initially kind of is there a little bit of admin I can do just to help out? And actually the rest is history really, over a year later, and this is where we are. So I just want to rewind back to July 2019 to give you all a bit of a background about how I am, where I am now. So I became really unwell and very quickly lost my mobility, my independence, and what felt like everything about me as well. Within literally 48 hours, I went from being an active mum of a 2-year-old, worked full time, rode my horses every day, to disabled in a wheelchair full time. I lost use of one of my hands, and I needed 24-hour care to be able to manage all my symptoms and to be helped with everyday tasks. So at the time, me and my husband John were living unaccompanied, with John posted 180 miles away from us. We'd never planned to move up here to be with John on this posting. He'd come back every weekend, and we were quite content with life like that. But with my health deteriorating so quickly, it was a bit of a wake-up call for us. John wanted to be the one looking after me. He didn't want to have to go back after every weekend, knowing that my family and friends were having to look after me, sort of help provide all my care for me, and also to look after our son Dylan. It was a really scary and worrying few months whilst the doctors tried to work out what was wrong with me. But however tricky and anxious that time was, out of it was born an opportunity. And looking back now, it initiated a pattern of lots of opportunities that would come my way, and all of which wouldn't have been there had I not become unwell and disabled. So I was diagnosed with a neurological condition, of which there's currently no real treatment for and no cure, but we have learnt and are still learning to manage all my complex symptoms alongside a fantastic doctor, really, really clever consultants, a range of medications and various treatments, and a whole lot of positivity, patience, hard work and determination from me, my husband, family, and my wider support team. We've got me to the point that we're at sort of today, which is ready to take on what's going to be a really exciting challenge alongside some of you. Just before I stop talking about me and start talking about the details of the challenge, which is obviously the important part that you're all here for, I just want to highlight where the idea for this challenge came from and why we chose this ride to freedom. So never one to let anything hold me back. I've been riding my horse again for the past 18 months as a para rider. After I was forced to have a break for a while when I first became unwell, while we figured out where I was at and what we could do. I saw, after getting involved with FWC, I saw some of our members taking on incredible challenges, from climbing mountains, ultra marathons, retracing the steps of the Heroes of Telemark in Norway earlier in the year, and everything in between. And it made me want to find a challenge that I could physically be involved with. So my horses have always given me a reason to physically push myself harder, and they provided me with a therapy that no health professional could ever offer me. And this is what led us to the idea of doing a challenge on horseback. So, and that's how this Ride to Freedom came about. So our Ride to Freedom has two really important messages for us at FWC. Firstly, there's the military history side of riding across tracks in the Pyrenees Mountains that were used by Allied forces and civilians escaping occupied France in World War II. Almost every single mountain pass in the Pyrenees were used as an escape route during World War II, although most will have heard of the well-known route called the Freedom Trail, which the Freedom Trail itself can only be followed precisely if on foot. So we will be tackling the same tracks, we'll be crossing over the same tracks, we'll be following the route as closely as we can on horseback. And our route will take us over the border into Spain, just literally a couple of kilometres to the west of where the kind of well-known Freedom Trail crosses over. So we are retracing the steps of lots before us who had no choice but to use these really challenging trails to escape into Spain. And in a short while, Ronnie will chat to you some more about the history behind the Freedom Trails and why they were used. But we've got another message as well. And that second message that we really want to put out there is that we are looking to find the freedom to overcome the barriers that life presents for us, because no matter what they may be, life is always putting barriers in front of us. For me, that's my disability. For some of you out there, that will be something completely different, but there will always be life will always put barriers in our way to be able to do things. So we want to achieve what on the surface seems completely impossible. We want to show the true diversity of our members, and hopefully we'd like to inspire others to seek adventure as well. So a few more facts about the actual challenge. We will fly to Toulouse Airport in France on the 26th of June next year. We'll head to our starting point, which is above the little village of Biert in the Ariège Pyrenees. After the first night's stay there, we will begin our journey and we will ride for 5 days across the mountains. We'll be spending 5 to 7 hours in the saddle each day, covering between 25 and 27 kilometres daily. Each night we'll stay in a different mountain accommodation en route. On days 2 and 4, we'll be provided with bag and saddle bags to put our personal belongings in, including sleeping bags, things like that, because we'll be staying in accommodation that the trucks with all our main luggage in won't be able to get to. On the other days, our luggage will be brought to us. But yeah, different accommodation along our route. On our 4th day of riding, our route will take us over the mountains and over the border into Spain, and our journey across the mountains to get to Spain will conclude at somewhere called the Amix de Montgari Refuge. It's a mountain refuge located in an old rectory in a beautiful abandoned village of Montgari. And on the 5th day of riding, we'll return back over the border into France, and our week will conclude back at our starting point above the village of Biart for the last night's stay before we fly home on the 2nd of July. So I'm just going to bring up a slide just to be able to show some images alongside the next part. So this ride we're riding across challenging, rugged mountain terrain. We're going to be going up and down steep gradients. Therefore, the participants in the team need to be confident riders who are comfortable riding in walk, trot and canter. Day 3 will be one of our most difficult days, as we will ride 1,600 meters up into the mountains. We'll be responsible for all aspects of horse care on our route, including tacking up, grooming, leading by hand. There will be a few short sections on our route in the first 4 days that riders will be required to dismount and lead their ponies due to the tracks being too steep underfoot. or loose, for the ponies to be able to carry their riders, but they'll be really short sections. But on day 5, when we are returning back over the border into France, riders will be required to walk between 30 minutes and an hour around that, because the tracks that day, they're the most technically difficult tracks to ride over. Over that week, we will cover around 130 kilometres, and that equates to about 80 miles. It will be, as I've said, a technically difficult challenge, but that's exactly what we're aiming for at FWC. We want a real challenge. So I'm just going to pop the slide onto the next one. So you can see a couple of quotes up there, just from our guide, who I'm just about to talk about, but also the images of the ponies there. So our guide is someone called Govan. He is a breeder and trainer of the native ponies of the Pyrenees, which they're called Marens. They look much like a British fell pony, as you can see there. They are well known for being really sure-footed, good-natured, and excellent for endurance riding. Govan actually took over his father's farm after he passed, and as his father did before him, he uses the practice of pastoralism to keep his horses, which basically means his horses live in freedom on the mountains rather than being kept in a stable or in a fenced field. He has a herd of around 50 horses currently, all bred and trained by him, and he'll be taking us across the mountains. We'll be riding in trekking saddles, which are a bit of a mix between English and Western. Apparently they are very comfortable for endurance riding and kind of the best thing we can be riding in. As you know, I will be on the challenge, and Heather and Ronnie will be in the team as well. Because of my disability, it's a bit different for me. I'm going to need extra support to enable me to take part and complete the challenge. So Heather and Ronnie are going to be there helping me with all my care needs throughout the week, and helping me physically with the bits extra that I'm going to need because of being disabled. Now I'm going to just turn the slides back off and then pass over to Ronnie, who's going to talk to you next. So over to you, Ronnie.
Hey, thanks, Steph. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being with us this morning. So I joined FWC about 3 years ago. We were based in Inverness, and I think I was the northernmost person Heather knew, and she said, hey, we want to do Ben Nevis. Can you organise it? And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. Then COVID hit, so ironically, we moved down to Andover, and a week later, I flew up to Scotland for our Ben Nevis challenge. So my husband's in the army. We live in Andover, as I said. We've got 2 children. I've only been in FWC for a short amount of time, but already on a daily basis, really, I benefit from the membership of this amazing community, especially such visible role models. I mean, Steph is a case in point, not least working with you on this challenge, Steph. I can honestly say my motivation is really helped by the mutual support that's available out there. And I love the opportunities we have now for personal growth and development through preparing for and taking part in such challenges, building that resilience that we rely on really to overcome the challenges that life throws at us. This morning, I'm going to give you a brief insight into the history of the Freedom Trail, or Chemin de la Liberté. I hope there are no native French speakers in the audience. Apologies if there are. There is a military connection to this challenge, and it's all about the ultimate challenge, really, the fighting for survival, trying to return home to friends and family. And just reading about it, about that history and that time, it's just what a challenge it would be to find oneself alone and unsupported in a hostile environment, where discovery could result in imprisonment or death. That's what many people had to face during World War II, when France was occupied by Nazi Germany for 4.5 years, from May 1940 to December 1944. Escape was often the best option for survival, really, and there were over 20 escape routes out of France, over the Pyrenees into Spain. The Freedom Trail was just one of those routes used, and it was used by French people, Jews of all nationalities, allied military personnel, mostly RAF airmen. I find this quite poignant because my grandfather was in Bomber Command. He flew missions over France. I mean, thankfully, he was never shot down, but his brother-in-law was, and my great-uncle Tony managed his own escape to Italy, and he lived with partisans in the mountains before being captured and then sent to a prisoner of war camp. So anyway, back to the trail, Freedom Trail. So where is it? It's situated practically in the middle of the Pyrenees mountain range, which, as you know, stretches along the border between France and Spain for 500 kilometers. So for centuries, this frontier zone has been really important for trade and cultural exchanges between the two countries via all the there's loads of mountain passes varying in altitude from 2,000 to 2,400 meters. So that's why the area was so ideally situated for those looking to escape, and that's why several of the escape networks were set up in this western part of what is the Ariège district in France, known as the Couserans, which radiates for more than 40 kilometers around the capital town of Saint-Giron. The Freedom Trail route itself is 73 kilometers from Saint-Giron to Alos des Îles in Spain, and it's representative of many other routes used in the Couserans area. And interestingly, it's the longest and most difficult route of all, but actually the one which was used most often by the local guides. And this was mainly due to the complexity of the route, because its arduous terrain put the occupying forces off from, they were really unable and often unwilling indeed to operate in such a harsh environment. So when France was occupied, during that occupation, there was a railway line which no longer exists. It ran between Toulouse and Saint-Giron, so that enabled people to get to Saint-Giron. And even that was a bit of a threat, because the main railway station was under constant surveillance from the Gestapo. I mean, during the early years of the occupation, the Ariège was still in what was known as the free zone, and it was under control of the French police. And so at that point, many people looking to escape did reach Spain by their own means, often following easier routes. But then there's a real change in 1942, because the Germans occupied the free zone then, because what had happened is the Allies had invaded North Africa in early November. And so the Nazis really tightened the noose in France, and surveillance increased dramatically. They posted frontier guards along the whole length of the Pyrenees, and they intensified all their patrols, and a forbidden zone was set up. It was 20 kilometers deep into the mountains, and if you wanted access into that zone, you could only get in with a special pass. So from then on, it became really vital to develop more structured and more efficient, and certainly more secret ways of reaching safety in Spain. So the result was that many well-organized escape lines were run by British, Belgian, Dutch, Polish, French groups. And their aim was not only the passage of people, the safe passage of people, but also important military information as well. So it became imperative then to be helped by, along one of these clandestine escape routes, and led over the mountains by local guides who really knew the terrain. So secrecy and discretion were vital elements in these escapes, and the difficulty and time involved increased as the months went by, all relative to that heightened surveillance, and also the difficulties encountered during all seasons on the routes themselves. So you can imagine the physical and psychological difficulties of this crossing were intense. You're fleeing for your life, you've maybe left, your loved ones behind, or you're trying to reach loved ones, your life's in danger, and then made worse if undertaken in atrocious weather conditions during winter and spring, because quite often people had no choice when they actually had to go. So it goes without saying that many of those trying to escape lost their lives, and many others endured untold hardships on these perilous journeys across the high peaks. The guides who were known as passeurs, they also paid a heavy price. Many were executed, others were deported. But thanks to their intimate knowledge of the terrain and local information that was provided on the movements of German patrols, they were able to lead approximately 3,000 people to safety. So I think when we're in the Pyrenees, we're going to reflect quite a bit. We'll rely on each other and horses to complete the challenge, but also drawing strength not only from the team around us, but also from those who've travelled the route before, risking their lives either to reach safety or to help others. And they really were the epitome to me of our mantra that together we can achieve anything. So there's a little insight into the history behind the Freedom Trail. If anyone would like further reading, I've read a really good book recently. It's called The Nightingale. It's a historical fiction novel which tells the story. It's quite interesting because it's from a female perspective as well. So it tells the story of two sisters in France during World War II and their struggle to survive and resist the German occupation. And it was actually inspired by a story of a Belgian woman who helped Allied pilots escape. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. Next up is a short video from the Armed Forces Equitation Charity. That's the charity we're going to be fundraising for in this challenge. Their founder, Jamie, is going to give you a short introduction, and then there are two further clips from a couple of people who have been helped by the charity.
At the moment, I'm here at Sandhurst, and you can see behind me, they're running activities with the riding disabled. So the first area we do is around providing equine sport and recreation, and we try and do that at 25% below the market rate. So effectively, we're making it affordable and accessible to everybody in the armed forces community. But more than that, and this is where we perhaps differ from the average military saddle club, we've now gone into welfare and well-being. What do I mean by that? Well, under the well-being, we have a number of programs, and we do equine assisted services. Equines are now seen as the most beneficial for those who suffer anxiety, stress, and trauma, and also for those who are neurodiverse. So there's two areas there that we allow our centres to support individuals who are perhaps coming out of PTSD, those who are anxious, stressed, etc., and also with the learning aspect for neurodiverse children around the armed forces community. The next piece we'll probably do is the wider welfare piece. Each of our centres are in the heart of garrison stations bases with tri-service, and that means they actually become welfare hubs in their own right. A great place to come for a cup of coffee and a chat and catch up. And we often find that parents dropping off their children for riding lessons, or bringing them for neurodiverse sessions, or bringing them for therapy, recovery, rehabilitations, and meet for the first time at our centres. They actually act as welfare hubs in their own right. So those really are the areas that we deliver to, and that's where your money will go to. And I'm really impressed with the challenge that you are doing. The linking between the heritage, of what the horses and the men and women have done in the past, riding across, from France into Spain, is quite a significant challenge that you're going to take. But actually, it gets right at the heart of what equines mean to the armed forces. Think about the heritage of equines within the military, and then think about all the money that you're raising and the good it's going to do to today's armed forces. I do wish you all the best of luck. Thank you.
The time that we spend here at the stables is invaluable to us. It helps with not only Rosie's physical well-being, but her mental well-being as well. Rosie has a very, very busy mind, suffers quite badly with anxiety, and come lockdown, we were incredibly worried about how she would cope. But we have had the Saddle Club, and with the help of the ladies who work here and of Chino, we've been really, really lucky. It has been a shining light in the last 12 months for her and myself. I'm physically disabled, and the guys here can just never do enough. Thank you to all the guys here at Shrivenham Station Saddle Club. We are incredibly lucky to have them.
Hi, I'm Elaine. I served 25 years in the army. In 2011, I was knocked off a motorbike and injured my back and had the lower part of my leg amputated. Because of my injuries, I was medically discharged from the army. I had to rebuild my life again, both physically and mentally. Because of the support that Tedworth Park Polo Club have given to injured veterans, I've been able to learn how to play polo. When I play polo, I just get on a horse. It doesn't matter if I don't have a leg. I can just play like anyone else. And polo is really important to me. It's the best part of my week. Because when I play polo, I don't feel disabled. I just feel normal.
My name is Jamie Balls, and I am...
Sorry there, everyone. Okay. So, as you just heard there, we are supporting the charity. We're going to be fundraising for the charity through the challenge, which will be great. So now I'm going to just move on and tell you a few more sort of details about the challenge, and also how the application process will work. So I'm just going to share my screen again and attempt to move it on and not play the video to you again. Here we go. Okay, so for those of you that will watch this information session today and decide that you want to apply, the applications will be open from today. So the application form will go on our website. It'll be on there by midday, along with a page detailing all the recruitment criteria. You'll find both these pages under the heading of upcoming events, which is on our menu on our website. The deadline for submitting applications to be on the team is 1 minute to midnight on the 31st of October. We will not be able to consider applications after this date, so please make sure your application forms are in by the closing date and time. Selection for the team will be based purely on the application forms we receive, and therefore we ask that you give us plenty of detail in your answers. We all have our own reasons for wanting to be part of this team for this challenge, and we all have our own stories, you know, behind those reasons. We would love to hear your story. We want to understand why you think this is the challenge for you, and you think that being on this team to complete this challenge is the right one for you. So please do answer the questions in as much detail as you can. So on to costings for the challenge. So each team member will be required to personally contribute £650 towards the challenge, and up to £50 per team building day, of which we've got 2 planned. There will be a deposit required, which is non-refundable, and that will be due by the 3rd of December, and the rest of the payment will be due early spring next year. All team members will need to organise and finance their own personal insurance for both the team building days and for the challenge, and will also be responsible for organising and financing their own suitable travel insurance for the trip as well. Flights will need to be booked and paid for by each team member, and details of times to fly in and out of France will be provided to the whole team shortly after the team is confirmed. All the main meals, accommodation, airport transfers in France are included within this personal contribution of £650. So it should just be drinks and snacks over there to be paid for individually whilst we're in France. The team will be provided with a full kit list, everything that we need to take once the team is confirmed. So if I just hand over to Ronnie to talk a little bit more now.
Yeah, so at this point, guys, I think it's worth mentioning the level of commitment required to ensure the success of this challenge, because firstly, there's the basics, responding to emails, being punctual for team events, and keeping to deadlines. But also there's the individual responsibility one has the team, because to make this challenge work, we're all going to need to take on specific roles, whether that be fundraising or marketing or social media and so on. Everyone's got to pull their weight for the benefit of the whole team. I totally don't want to put you off, but the reality is that this isn't sort of your average trip abroad. Basically, the challenge begins as soon as the team is nominated, and that's when the journey starts. Back to you, Steph, about selection, please.
Thank you. So yeah, so after the application closing date, the application forms will be sent to a team selection committee that will review all the applications and decide on the team. It will be made up of our adventure approval committee, who are responsible at the moment for reviewing all our new challenge ideas that come in, and then myself and Ronnie will be on that team selection committee too. When we're selecting the team, Ronnie and myself will have the casting vote on who will be chosen for the team, and then we'll be in contact when the team is selected. Pass back over to you, Ronnie.
Yeah, so on this point, at this time, I'd also like to touch on the subject of reserves, because Steph's highlighted there are 5 places to be filled, but it doesn't make sense if we don't have reserves, because there's a lot of effort to setting this up, and we don't want all that effort to go to waste, really, and also it's a real opportunity. So the plan is that we'll choose 2 reserves, and they'll be included in all team activity right from the very start, just because if a reserve does end up on the challenge, then we think it's better all round if they're as invested in it as everyone else. And if reserve doesn't get to go on a challenge, I mean, I totally guarantee you that you'll still have had loads of fun, you'll have made firm friends, and of course, everything you take from being part of the challenge, you can use towards your next FWC challenge that you do get to go on. So just to give you an insight into what it's like to go on an FWC's overseas challenge, I'd like to introduce Gemma Bacon. She successfully completed the Heroes of Telemark challenge in Norway earlier this year. Over to you, Gemma.
Hi there, good morning. Hi everyone. So my name's Gemma Bacon, and I was fortunate to be selected as one of the hot team members for the Heroes of Telemark back in March. So my husband's in the army and we are married and unaccompanied. So I currently live in Grimsby. I have an 8-year-old and a 2-year-old at home. I'm a paediatric nurse in my local A&E. And so I think being married and unaccompanied, I prior to joining Forces Wives Challenge was probably a bit on the sidelines of military life. You know, I'm not part of a patch. I kind of was a bit on the sidelines. I came to Forces Wives Challenge. I kind of followed them in the background a little bit. I came upon them through a friend on social media and then started sort of following FWC and just kind of stalked them in the background. Didn't actually sign up or join or anything. And then actually it was hearing about the announcement for the Heroes of Telemark expedition that kind of spurred me on and made me sign up and apply. So I sat on a Zoom just over a year ago, a bit like all you guys are today, feeling really nervous and excited and thinking, oh my goodness, look at all those people on that Zoom. It'll never be me that goes. And obviously I did. So it was from the off, being part of the team. It was really busy, but wonderful to be part of a team. Obviously, the selection process was a little different to, I think, what this one's going to be. But you know, all the same, we still had to apply. And I think at every stage of the selection process, I kind of gave myself reasons to maybe not do it. I remember the morning of getting ready to go to Sandhurst for one of the selection weekends thinking, oh, it'd just be so much easier to stay at home and not do it. And it's that putting yourself out of your comfort zone. And, you know, but even after the first weekend of being around all these just amazing women, everyone had such a good story to tell and just incredible women, that from that first weekend, I already felt like I'd got so much out of FWC. I've met some wonderful people along the way that, you know, I know I'll stay in touch with. I think the Heroes of Telemark specifically, kind of the pull for me. I think the big thing that made me want to do it was that world's first, and that was kind of the pull for me, and just, you know, the history of it and just the whole story. It was just incredible. So yeah, and then obviously to find I got a place, and then that's when the fun started. And like Ronnie said, it is a really big commitment. I remember really vividly Heather saying to us on the last selection weekend, you know, you need to be sure that you can commit to this. And there was lots to do in the lead up to going. But it was, you know, we were all part of a WhatsApp group, and it was wonderful to have each other to rely on. And, you know, when we was training, to message each other and spur each other on, and just have that team camaraderie and spirit. And, you know, if you was having a bit of a rubbish training, you know, you could message someone and go, oh, and they'd be like, yeah, me too. And just being part of that team just from the off, before we even, you know, got on a flight to go anywhere, was just amazing. Actually doing the challenge was just incredible. I don't think it's so hard to explain, but I've never done anything I've done a few like running events and things like that, but never anything to this kind of gravity, and never taken part in like a proper team event. And for me, that was just the best, like having like other women uplifting you, and was just such a nice thing to be a part of. And I loved that when we was out there was no who was fitter, who was better. It was just about pulling together as a team. It didn't matter whose turn it was next to pull the pulk. You just got on with it. It didn't matter that, you know, maybe for me, I think one of my biggest worries was letting my team down when we was out there, and you know, there was none of that. It wasn't about who was fitter. We were all equals, and we all just got on with it, and you know, supported each other. And when I came back, I honestly just, it makes you feel more resilient. It gives you a confidence, and I honestly felt like I could achieve anything then, because I'd done this amazing thing. You know, and to go back to work and people would be like, ask me about it and be excited for me about it. And I think as well, like my little boy went into school and was telling his teachers about, oh, my mummy's doing this really cool thing. And I remember when I was training out pulling my tire, and he was like, I was explaining to him why I was doing it, why I was, you know, don't just love pulling a tire around with me. And I remember explaining it to him and him being like, wow, mummy. So yeah, honestly, just put yourself out there and go for it. It is, you know, it's a big commitment, and there's so many reasons to not do it that you'll give yourself. I think for me, one of the biggest things is having, like, you know, having children and leaving them behind. And I think especially as military wives, that we hold the fort at home and we do everything, and it's not us that go off all the time like our husbands do. So for me was letting go of the reins and being like, okay, I'm going to hand over this responsibility to you now, because it's actually what I always do, and I run such a tight ship that actually one of my biggest things of, you know, actually going was the time away from the children, but also handing over that responsibility and kind of letting go of the reins and being like, this is your job now, and I'm going to switch off from that mum mode and being a nurse, and I'm going to go and do something for me. But yeah, it was just, you know, the most incredible experience. And I think as well, just being in such a busy world, that it was nice to go and not have your phone and social media and just be able to switch off from that, and let your mind be less busy, and just, you know, take in the moment and what you're doing and the people around you, and you know, be fully involved in that team. But yeah, so it sounds incredible. I think I want to come. But no, good luck to everybody that applies. You know, you'll be amazing, and what an incredible opportunity. Thanks, guys.
Okay, back over to you, Heather. Thank you so much, Gemma.
Oh, thank you so much, Gem. It took me all the way back to Norway, and just that feeling of just about to launch on another great challenge and meet some more incredible women from our community. So yeah, really just a information. So yeah, please ask any questions afterwards. If there's questions that you haven't thought about, please email Steph. She'll get back to you in about 2 minutes. And yeah, ask any questions. But I think just to really summarize, to say, you know, this is just such an incredibly exciting challenge. And like Ronnie touched on and Jem touched on, it will be hard work. And so really think about whether in your life you've got the time for it. Don't wait to find out if you've got a place to decide whether you want to do it. Decide now whether you want to do it, because it will be busy, and there's all sorts of responsibilities. The thing that takes a lot of time is getting the fundraising from corporates, because for this to be successful and this to go ahead, we're going to need corporate sponsorship. So from the team of 8, you know, responsibilities around marketing, PR, corporate sponsorship, charity liaison, team building kind of organization. There'll be all these things that Ronnie and Steph will delve out between the group. But it will be busy, but it will be great. And as a team, we will sort of tackle these problems. But